months now, but we're coming back to it. And at the top it says Bible character study number 3, King Asa, part 1, trusting God. And so we'll be back into this character sequence until later this fall or early winter even, so we'll be in it for quite a while. There are a few extra sheets, if you don't have one, in the information corner in the back. So we have one spare up here too if anybody needs one. So I'm going to read for us out of 2 Chronicles 14, 2 Chronicles 14, and you can just listen or you can follow along. It's a short chapter. I'm going to read the entire chapter, and that will set the stage for answering some questions. So Abijah slept with his fathers, and they buried him in the city of David, and his son Asa became king in his place. The land was undisturbed for 10 years during his days. Asa did good and right in the sight of the Lord his God, for he removed the foreign altars and high places, tore down the sacred pillars, cut down the Asherim, and commanded Judah to seek the Lord God of their fathers and to observe the law and the commandment. He also removed the high places and the incense altars from all the cities of Judah, and the kingdom was undisturbed under him. He built fortified cities in Judah, since the land was undisturbed, and there was no one at war with him during those years, because the Lord had given him rest. For he said to Judah, "Let us build these cities and surround them with walls and towers, gates and bars. The land is still ours, because we have sought the Lord our God. We have sought him, and he has given us rest on every side." So they built and prospered. Now Asa had an army of 300,000 from Judah, bearing large shields and spears, and 280,000 from Benjamin, bearing shields and wielding bows. All of them were valiant warriors. Now Zerah the Ethiopian came out against them with an army of 1,000,000 men and 300 chariots, and he came to Marashah. So Asa went out to meet him, and they drew up in battle formation in the valley of Zephathah at Marashah. Then Asa called to the Lord his God and said, "Lord, there is no one besides you to help in the battle between the powerful and those who have no strength. So help us, O Lord our God, for we trust in you, and in your name have come against this multitude, O Lord. You are our God. Let not man prevail against you." So the Lord routed the Ethiopians before Asa and before Judah, and the Ethiopians fled. Asa and the people who were with him pursued them as far as Gerar, and so many Ethiopians fell that they could not recover, for they were shattered before the Lord and before his army, and they carried away very much plunder. They destroyed all the cities around Gerar, for the dread of the Lord had fallen on them, and they despoiled all the cities, for there was much plunder in them. They also struck down those who owned livestock, and they carried away large numbers of sheep and camels. Then they returned to Jerusalem. All right, so we're looking at King Asa, and there are quite a few wonderful stories of kings in the Old Testament, and sadly, many of them begin with somebody who's got his heart right with God, and then they end not so great. And sadly, that's how it's going to be with Asa too. But tonight we're just looking at the front end, the early years of his rule. So on your question sheet, question number 1, who was King Asa's father? King Abijah, or sometimes Abijam. Number 2, what does the narrator say about his behavior in general? Asa did good and right in the sight of Yahweh his God. Number 3, which of his fathers or ancestors did he imitate? King David. So that's kind of a thread that runs through the records of the kings. Almost all of them are compared either for good or for ill against David. David is kind of the benchmark standard bearer. Number 4, how long was there peace in the land at the beginning of Asa's reign? 10 years. Number 5, what positive steps did Asa take for the spiritual health of the nation? From verses 3 and 5. He removed the foreign altars and high places, tore down the sacred pillars and Asherim, removed the high places and the incense altars from all the cities of Judah. So what are these high places? What are these altars and incense altars? What's this about? So they're worshiping, and two possibilities of what they're worshiping. One is they could be worshiping Jehovah, but that would be a problem, wouldn't it? Why would it be a problem to be worshiping Yahweh, the true and living God, at a high place? Okay, there's other things around them, and God had said, you are to worship me only at Jerusalem, only at my temple. Now, in the context, the implication is that's not really mostly what this was. Mostly, it was the worship of other gods. That's why they're called foreign altars. So it's the worship of Baal or other gods and goddesses, fertility gods, all kinds of gods in the Canaanite pantheon. And this has snuck into Jewish religion. And so Asa says, I'm not going to allow that. And he begins to tear stuff down. That's a very positive thing. That's a good thing. Sometimes before we can begin to get right with God, you have to hoe out the garbage. You have to get the junk out. And that is what Asa is doing. He's cleaning house. He's getting in there and saying, this idolatry stuff, these images and these statues and these shrines, the tendency was on every hilltop, so every prominent hilltop, you would find a grove of trees and some kind of a shrine to a god, a local god or a Canaanite god or goddess. And that would be where people would offer offerings, maybe pour out some olive oil in honor of the god, pray to that god, worship that god, and quite often not just on the hilltops, but if there's a prominent grove of trees. So that shows up in the Bible, in the Old Testament, on every high hill and at every grove of trees. Now, it wasn't necessarily every place, but a lot of them. Those were places where people would worship pagan deities. And so Asa is clearing this out. So we're on number 6 now. What did he command the people of Judah to do? To seek Yahweh, the God of their fathers, and to observe the law and the commandment. By the way, what does it mean to seek God, to seek the Lord? Look and search, okay. Can we look and search for God today? Yeah, of course we can. We're not looking for a physical thing. We're not looking for a physical body or location, but we're searching and seeking to know him, to understand him. And we do that through his word, through fellowship with other believers. So number 7, how did God bless this? The land was undisturbed, and there was no one at war with him, Asa, during those years, because Yahweh had given him rest. Number 8, King Asa wisely took advantage of this peace. What steps did he take for the future security of the land? He built fortified cities in Judah and surrounded them with walls and towers, gates and bars. Now, so there's 4 different forms of fortification mentioned in that passage. Walls and towers we get, gates we get. What are bars? Probably on the gates. So the gates would be reinforced with large, usually wood, but big beams, and they would fit in kind of an L-shaped bracket so that you couldn't bash the gates in. And the gate houses were very carefully designed for maximum defensibility. So they would often have, a gatehouse would often have an outer gate, and then you would go in and you'd have to turn a corner, often to the right. And then there's another inner gate. And the theory behind that was, as you turned, you would open yourself to arrow or javelin fire from an opposing port inside the gatehouse. So it was all very carefully thought through. If the enemy breached the outer gate, how do you keep them there from getting inside the city? So this is what Asa is leading the people to do. He's getting ready. He's taking advantage of 10 years of peace instead of just having parties and saying, yeah, let's yuck it up because we're having a good time, he's saying we need to take thought for the future. And that's a biblical precept, that you prepare for what's next. You try to take into account things could go differently than you planned. And so to have some preparations in hand is a good idea. So he took advantage of that. Number 9, how large was the army under Asa? 300,000 from Judah, bearing large shields and spears, and 280,000 from Benjamin, bearing shields and wielding bows. All of them were valiant warriors, a total of 580,000 men. That's a big army. That's a sizable crew. The specific wording probably takes into account different types of warfare. So large shields and spears. So spears are not normally throwing weapons. Those are handheld weapons. The total is 580,000. So a spear is normally held in your arm. That's different from a javelin. A javelin is a kind of a spear that you throw. So large shields and spears. And then Benjamin especially specializes in archery. So they have bows. All of them are valiant warriors, meaning hardy, rugged, trained, prepared for battle. Number 10, about 5 years later, who came out against Judah? Zerah the Ethiopian. The army apparently consisted of both Ethiopians and Lubim, who are probably Libyans. Number 11, what was the size of his army? 1,000,000 men. Wow. That's a lot of guys. How many chariots did they have? 300. Now, number 13, what was the approximate ratio of soldiers? That is, roughly 2 to 1 or something like that, roughly 2 to 1. So the Israelis have 1 unit for every 2 of the opposition. Number 14, many modern historians and scholars say that it would have been impossible in the 900s BC for a nation to have fielded an army of that size. The food, supplies, transportation, logistics, and animals would simply have been too much. So they argue for a very much smaller number of troops, saying that the biblical record is inflated and flawed. What would you say to that? Yeah, so the Bible is accurate. So that when it says there's 1,000,000 men, there's 1,000,000 men. It's not inflated, it's not flawed, there's not some goof in it. The Bible means what it says and says what it means. So it was an army of 1,000,000 men. They could field large armies. They had the ability to do that, and they did do that. Number 15, where did King Asa and his army meet Zerah and his incredible army for battle? In the valley of Zephathah at Marashah. Marashah is a fortified city in western lowland Judah. Number 16, what did Asa do after putting his army into battle formation? He called or cried out to Yahweh his God. And number 17, what did he pray? Yahweh, there is no one besides you to help us in the battle between the powerful and those who have no strength. So help us, O Yahweh our God, for we trust in you, and in your name have come against this multitude. O Yahweh, you are our God. Let not man prevail against you. So, kind of interesting. Asa gets all his components. He's got his army organized. He has all his various units, and they're all ready for battle. And he gets them lined up on the battlefield, opposing the Ethiopian army. And then he says, we got to pray. So he does what he knows he should do. That is, as commander-in-chief, he lines up his army. He gets all his generals, all his colonels. Everybody's got their orders. You know what you're supposed to do. But then he prays. So there's a principle, and you can find this running through the whole Bible. And that is, we use what we have. God has given us what we have. We use what we have, but key to victory, key to success, is understanding that victory is not because we have a great army, or because we have overwhelming force, or because we have a technological edge. Victory comes when we trust God. So think about a woman comes to Elisha, and she says, my Lord, my husband died. He was one of your guys. He was one of your prophets. He died, and I didn't realize it, but he left a lot of bills unpaid. And now, to pay the bills, some of the creditors are saying, they're going to take my kids. They're going to take my kids as slaves. What can we do? What can I do? Do you remember what Elisha said? What do you have in your house? A little jar of oil. That's all I got. So he says, go home, go to all your neighbors, borrow every single spare jar and vase and bowl and basin that they will lend you. Get it all in the house, and then you pour the oil into those receptacles. Now, we have no clue what the missus was thinking, but, you know, she's thinking, okay, I have a little jar, and I now have 40 gallons worth of containers. How does this work? But you see, the principle is you use what you have, and then you trust God. That's a key principle through the whole Bible. Even in 2 Corinthians, 1 Corinthians chapter 4, it is required of a man that a man be found faithful, and a man is accountable for what he has and not for what he doesn't have. So we're accountable for what we have, not things we don't have. So here, Asa lines up his guys, and then he prays. So he's going to trust God. Number 18, what happened next? Yahweh routed the Ethiopians before Asa and before Judah, and the Ethiopians fled. That term routed, what does that mean? Disperse. So in military terms, you can have a tactical withdrawal. So you're engaged with the enemy, and for whatever reason, the commander says, this is not good, this is not helpful, we're going to pull back. And so everybody gets his gear and carefully begins moving backward. You have covering units to watch, because if you turn around, the enemy is going to take advantage of that. So you've got units that are guarding your rear as you move back from the battle line. That's a tactical withdrawal. There can sometimes be a disorderly withdrawal, where things don't go well at all, and the commander says, we just got to get out of here. Go now. Everybody grab your stuff, get your rifle, get your backpack, whatever ammo you can carry. We got to back up. We're too far forward, we're in a salient, get back. And that's pretty disorderly. It doesn't go too good. There can be a lot of casualties in that. A rout is another step beyond that. That's where something happens in the battle line where order begins to break down, panic begins to take hold, guys are scared, and they're no longer thinking about facing the enemy. They're now thinking about, I want off this battlefield. I want to run. And as they run, they begin to drop their equipment. They're no longer soldiers, they're just running for their lives. That's a rout. And the Ethiopians, 1 million men, were being routed. They were being overtaken, they were running, they were scared, they were dropping equipment as they ran, and this is what it looked like. And this, of course, is because of God. Number 19, what did King Asa and his army do? They pursued them as far as Gerar. Gerar was Philistine territory. Perhaps Zerah had made an alliance with them. And so one of the principles of warfare is when you have the enemy on the run, you pursue them and you finish the job. And that's what Asa is going to do. Number 20, was it a defeat by a narrow margin or an overwhelming one? Overwhelming. In fact, so many Ethiopians fell that they could not recover, for they were shattered before Yahweh and before his army. What did Asa's army proceed to do? They destroyed all the cities around Gerar and despoiled all the cities, for there was much plunder in them. They also struck down those who owned livestock, and they carried away large numbers of sheep and camels. So this started out as a battle for survival of Judah, and it has now turned into Judah is going to have a lot more cattle, livestock, animals, stuff than they started with, because God intervened. Number 22, how are they able to do this? The dread of Yahweh had fallen on them, the inhabitants of Gerar. So then in chapter 15 of 2 Chronicles, I'll not read that now, but in that chapter, Asa and the army of Judah and Benjamin return home, and there's great celebration and joy. And as they come through the gates of Jerusalem, a prophet rises up, and he has words to share with Asa and with Judah. So, number 23, question 23. It seems that upon the triumphant return of King Asa, a prophet named Azariah, he's mentioned only here, came to meet him. Summarize his message. So what did Azariah have to say? Yeah. The Lord is with you if you are with him. If you seek him, he will let you find him. Be strong and take courage. There's work to do for God, and God will reward your faithfulness. So Azariah tells Asa, this is a good beginning, but there's more to do. This is a good start. And if you are faithful to God, if you take hold of the work God has for you to do, you're going to be a great man. You can do great things. Number 24, what did King Asa do immediately after? He took courage and removed the abominable idols from the land he controlled. Now, he'd started doing that earlier. We're not clear now. Has it snuck back in? Or, what is this? Or is this a more extensive, more intensive cleansing? What it is? From the land he controlled. He then restored the altar of Yahweh. Either Asa had not been brave enough to be thorough in destroying idols at the beginning of his reign, or they'd crept back in. So the altar of God and the temple had not been cared for, had not been maintained. Now it is going to be. Number 25, who did he gather? All Judah and Benjamin. Now this next part is interesting too. And those from Ephraim, Manasseh, and Simeon. Now if you think back 35 years earlier, there had been a split in the kingdom, and the 10 northern tribes had gone their own way. But what is happening now is there are people up in the northern kingdom who have been watching, and they say, this King Asa, he means business for God. I want to get in on that. And because of his loyalty and his fervor for God, it attracted other like-minded people to him. And so they're coming and they're joining with him in this effort. So many people had defected to him from Israel when they saw that Yahweh, his God, was with him. Number 26, after offering a huge animal sacrifice from their spoils of war, what did the people do? They entered into a covenant to seek Yahweh their God with all their heart and soul. Whoever would not seek God would be put to death. They made an oath to Yahweh with loud shouting, trumpets, and horns. All Judah rejoiced, for they had sought him earnestly, and he had let them find him. So this is the answer to the question, how do you seek God? Well, you worship and you say, we're going to do whatever you tell us to do. We're going to obey you, we're going to trust you. Number 27, what action did King Asa take against his own family? Well, he removed Ma'akah, his grandmother, from the position of queen mother, because she had made a horrid image of an Asherah, which Asa cut down, crushed, and burned. So Queen Mother was an important person in the kingdom, his own grandmother. But she was a worshiper of Asherah, who's the consort of Baal, that Canaanite god. And he said, Grandma, I'm sorry, but I can't let you have that. And in fact, the suite of rooms that you have in the palace, you have to move out. Whoa. Now that's pretty courageous. That's a guy who's devoted to the Lord. He did that with his own grandmother because he said, loyalty to God comes first. So, number 28, what did God protect Judah from for 10 years? War. And then lastly, what have you learned from King Asa's early reign? What are some lessons you have learned? Have faith, pray to God, use what you have. Trust God. If you trust in the Lord and lean hard on Him, He will fight for you. What else? Practical applications.
And I think, or you're in or you're out.
Yeah.
Because this testimony here.
Yes, yes.
All the kingdoms got together.
Yep.
Because of what he did.
And one man, now he was a king, but one man can make a difference. One man's loyalty, one man saying, I am going to serve God, and you're either with me or you're not. But that one man, one individual can make a difference, and he did. Amen. Okay, take your prayer bulletins, please.